This event occurred before Genesis 1, the creation of the sons of God. Genesis 6:1-4 in the book of Job intrigued many Bible readers due to the mysterious identity of the sons of God and the Nephilim. In the biblical story of Job, there is a wealthy man named Job who lives in a region called Uz, along with his large family and numerous flocks. He is a just and upright man, always striving to live morally. Job had a very disciplined relationship with God. Suddenly, he loses everything he has. The suffering is so great that Job becomes bitter, anxious, and fearful. He desires to confront God and complain. Eventually, God responds. 36 times Job asked God to speak with him, and now his request has been granted. Job 38:4-7 says, "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions if you know? Who stretched a measuring line across it? On what were its footings set, or who laid its cornerstone? While the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy." We read, "While the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy." It is clear that angelic beings called morning stars and sons of God witnessed the creation of the earth and celebrated God's glory, power, and wisdom in the process. Fallen angels are rarely mentioned in the Bible because most angels in heaven never fell from grace and went to the dark side. Some, however, chose to follow that path. These fallen angels did not maintain their original state, meaning they did not follow the purpose for which they were created. Angels were made to be in heaven with God, praising Him and fulfilling His commands. They, like humans, were created to glorify God, but humans were destined to live on earth, not angels. However, these angels left their original state in heaven. They chose to reject God's plan for their lives, exercising their free will. According to the Bible, these angels are called fallen angels because they abandoned heaven. What happened to these angels? According to the Bible, 2 Peter 2:4 says, "For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but sent them to hell, putting them in chains of darkness to be held for judgment." The leader of these angels is Satan, who transforms himself into an angel of light. The devil conspired against God, his creator, and he and the angels who followed him lost the battle. What happens after the fallen angels leave heaven? According to Matthew 25:41, the eternal fire, hell, was prepared for the devil and his angels. In other words, hell was never intended for a single person, though Judas and others will inevitably end up there. In the end, Satan and the fallen angels were the intended recipients of hell. Hell was created in heaven as a final punishment for the leaders of the Great Rebellion, but the Lord allows others from the nations He judges to go there as well, because of choice, free will, and the responsibility given by God to humans to choose their eternal destiny, whether heaven or hell. And it is to hell that Satan and the fallen angels, 1/3 of those who rebelled with him, will go at the end of everything. God will unleash His wrath on those who rebelled against Him, and Satan and the fallen angels will not escape unscathed. We see here that fallen angels exist, even though the fall from grace is a difficult concept for some of us to grasp. We would like to believe that angels cannot fall, but biblical history proves otherwise. The fallen angels are known to be 1/3 of the angelic hosts who followed Satan in the Great Rebellion and attempted to overthrow God and His throne to take over heaven. We also know that the attempt was a colossal failure and that Satan and his rebellious angels were expelled from heaven. Some fallen angels are now in hell, while others who were on earth follow their own paths. According to Genesis 6, the fallen angels married humans and had giant children with human women. Genesis 6:1-4 says, "When men began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, 'My spirit will not contend with man forever, for he is mortal. His days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown.' The Bible says, 'And they married any of them they chose.' We can deduce why Satan sent his angels to marry human women, directly or indirectly. Satan attempted to pollute the genetic pool of humanity with satanic corruption, planting something resembling a genetic pathogen to make the human race unfit to bear the seed of the woman. The Messiah promised in Genesis 3:15. But who were the sons of God? Both pre-Christian Judaism and the early church believed that the sons of God were spiritual beings or angels who took human wives and gave birth to giants known as the Nephilim. The three main perspectives on the identity of the sons of God are as follows. They were fallen angels. They were powerful human rulers. They were godly descendants of Seth who married wicked descendants of Cain. The traditional belief is that the sons of God were supernatural beings who had children with human women, resulting in the Nephilim. Here are the reasons supporting this interpretation. The expression sons of God in the Old Testament always refers to angels, which supports this idea. In Job 1:6 we read, "One day the sons of God, angels, came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan, the adversary accuser, came with them." Job 2:1 also says, "On another day the sons of God, angels, came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan, the adversary accuser, also came to present himself before the Lord." Job 38:7 states, "While the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God, angels, shouted for joy." In all these passages, the sons of God are described as spiritual beings, angels, including Satan. The phrases used in Job suggest that Genesis 6 refers to these spirits, angels. Genesis 6:1-2 contrasts the sons of God with men, indicating that these beings are not human. Genesis 6:1 says, "When men began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them." The Hebrew word for man is a generic term for humanity, as used in Genesis 5:1-2. The sons of God are contrasted with men. Thus, the sons of God were different from men and married the daughters of men. Therefore, the sons of God must be some type of non-human beings. The context indicates that the Nephilim were the offspring resulting from the union between spiritual beings and humans. The Nephilim, or fallen ones in Genesis 6:4, are mysterious figures. The mighty men of old, men of renown. The text does not explain how the Nephilim came to be. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children by them, says the text. But why are the Nephilim mentioned in Genesis 6 alongside the marriage between the sons of God and the daughters of men? It is unclear how these men of renown came about if they were not the result of the union between spiritual beings and humans. Jude likely interprets Genesis 6:1-4 as a reference to the marriage between spiritual beings and humans. Jude 6 mentions angels who did not keep their positions of authority, but abandoned their proper dwelling. Unless Jude is referring to an unknown event, it seems he is talking about the angels who left heaven to live on earth, as described in Genesis 6:1-4. These arguments support the traditional view that the sons of God united with human women and gave birth to the Nephilim. Although this may sound strange to modern ears, the same can be said about many parts of the Bible. Truth is stranger than fiction, and the world God created is quite different from what we usually believe. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful. It is more accurate to understand the sons of God as demons, angels in rebellion against God, or men possessed by demons, while the daughters of men are human women. Jude 6 says, "And the angels who did not keep their positions of authority, but abandoned their proper dwelling, these he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day." Jude 6 also explains what God did with these evil angels. In Peter 3:19-20 informs us that Jesus proclaimed his victory on the cross over them. 1 Peter 3:19-20 says, "After being made alive, he went and made proclamation to the imprisoned spirits, to those who were disobedient long ago when God waited patiently in the days of Noah while the ark was being built. In it, only a few people, 8 in all, were saved through water." As we can see, Satan is much more than a red figure with horns and a pitchfork. He is an ancient being with true spiritual power, which he uses for evil and selfish purposes. He has a special hostility towards Christians and seeks to destroy them. Here are 3 important truths to remember when dealing with this spiritual reality. First, it is a grave mistake to consider God and the devil as equivalent opposites. This gives Satan much more importance than he deserves. The power difference between God and Satan is like that of an infinite creator and his creation. No matter how cunning or powerful Satan becomes in his rebellion against God, he will never be able to match the power of the one who created him. In short, no angelic being, whether fallen or righteous, can compete with the power and strength of Jesus. On the other hand, underestimating Satan's power is also a dangerous mistake. He is not stronger than God, but he is stronger than us. For millennia, Satan has created dark and wicked schemes. He is a skillful liar and manipulator with power that no mortal human can match. But although we must be wary of Satan, we do not need to fear him. We do not even know his real name. I believe this is intentional, a subtle way of showing that he is not a big enough threat to God to deserve us knowing his name. The defeat of Satan was foretold from the beginning. In the early chapters of Genesis, God declares the serpent's defeat even after it deceived Adam and Eve. Here is what God says to the serpent, and we see this promise fulfilled in Jesus' sacrifice. Despite suffering a fatal blow, Jesus crushed the serpent's head as he gave up his spirit. And we eagerly await the day when this promise will be completely fulfilled. We need to be prepared for spiritual warfare. Many of us, raised in modern times, are often blind to spiritual realities and the invisible forces at work. We learn about them in books, talk about them, but few of us actually engage with them. By doing so, we may expose ourselves to spiritual attacks. The quickest way to lose a battle is not to realize you are in one. The power of Jesus is much more than words on a page and hope for after death. Every day, spiritual battles happen around us. If we want to be effective spiritual warriors, we must dedicate ourselves to prayer, tune our hearts to the real presence of God, and cultivate discernment as we seek to do our Father's work. Our adversary is powerful, but our God is even more so. A spiritual war is occurring now and affects everyone on the planet. It is a clash between 2 kingdoms. One kingdom is led by Almighty God, the Prince of Peace, while the other is led by Satan, the prince of the power of darkness. A spiritual world surrounds us, much more populous, powerful, and resourceful than our visible world of human beings. Good and evil spirits pass through our midst. They move from place to place with speed and silence. They live in the air around us. Some, we know, care about our well-being, while others are against us. There are 2 kingdoms, one for God and the other for his great adversary, Satan. One represents good, while the other represents evil. One represents light, while the other represents darkness. One represents blessings, while the other represents curses. One represents life, while the other represents death. These 2 antagonistic kingdoms cannot coexist. They are in conflict. When did this spiritual conflict begin? What were the causes? After being expelled from the 3rd heaven, Satan and his followers united and formed the rebel kingdom, which still exists today and will continue to exist until it is destroyed by God's supreme power. Paul warned us to keep our main goal in mind so that we can stand against the wiles of the devil and not turn against each other. He emphasized that our adversary is not flesh and blood,